So my morning routine would be I'd get up at 8 o'clock in the morning. I'd have a coconut water, and then I'd go to the gym. I'd fight. I'd go work out for 2 hours. I'd leave there, and I'd meet him at the beach, and we'd run the beach. We'd run 7, 8, 10 miles a day, 3, 4 days a week. And by the time it was 2 o'clock, we would end up going to one of these places for happy hour. And by being on the beach day and night and being at the gym, you knew the whole area.
What's up, everybody? Check it out. Today's episode is with John Alite. Matt, tell him.
We are the first podcasters to be invited to Mr. John Alite's house, and we are honored by it. We had snacks, we worked out, we had some drinks, we kicked it, we hung out all afternoon. John is a gentleman and a true, amazing podcast guest. So please subscribe and help us out because we are here for you guys, the viewers, the people. We are a podcast for the people. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Money, Loyalty, Legacy. My name is Matt.
And you're with the boy, the champ.
And today we have an extra special guest. He is a former enforcer for the Gambino Mafia crime family. He is a multiple-time best-selling author. He is a social media sensation. He is a film producer consultant. He now goes for the kids and helping them get out of the street life. He's an international traveler, a multilingualist. Ladies and gentlemen, he is the Albanian James Bond, Mr. John Alite.
Hey, how are you?
Welcome on, brother.
Now, the correct pronunciation of your name, is it Alite or Elite?
No, it's actually Alite. Alite is in, the Albanian pronunciation. Growing up in school, no teacher could get it right, so they used to say Alite. So we just said, okay, Alite.
Okay.
And then later on, it became Elite, and everybody left out the vowel at the end. So kind of, even I say it 3 ways. Depends who I'm talking to. So it's just like, whatever. Call me anything you want.
Okay. So, John, I'm going to be real with you. You said, before we started the podcast, you said we could talk about anything goes, correct?
Anything goes.
You're not going to grab a baseball bat or do anything, beat me up.
Well, I didn't say that. I just said
Okay, so I was telling Ross before the show, I was like, I don't know if we can refer to him as John Alite.
I didn't. We talked about it. You're really going to go with. We started on a good foot with him, though.
I mean,
Now, you guys are in pretty good shape, and I am getting old. Maybe I got to be the one worrying about this.
Well,
I mean, if you're going to say it, just do it. But
all right.
He seems cool.
This is kind of hard to say, and I didn't really want to start off the show like this, but you're not going to get mad?
I got to get
all
mad.
right. Instead of John Alite, I was thinking we should be calling you Johnny Catnip because he's absolutely addicted to you. So, I mean, that's what we hear.
Yeah,
like,
right?
so how is it?
I got the hottest right there. Cookie is my cat over there.
Your Cookie was right from behind us to jump and pounce.
So let's get right into it then. So what is it like? Most guys will go their whole lives never knowing what it's like to be with as many beautiful women that you've had throughout your life. Has that always been like that for you? I mean, was that something, obviously, in shape, handsome gentleman, the art of speaking to women, is that something you've always possessed?
No, actually, I was really shy growing up as a kid.
Really?
So the girls that I would date or talk to, only the girls that would talk to me, approach me, basically. And if they didn't, I kind of, as much as I liked them, I really wouldn't go over and approach them.
Really?
Yeah, it was really shy, actually.
Till what age?
7. About 16, 17. Yeah.
Okay.
So when did you know that all the women wanted you? 7 or sooner?
When I was a little kid in junior high school, the girls used to always pinch my cheek and say cute. I was really small.
Yeah.
So I just took it as I was a small, little cute kid to them. I didn't really realize that they liked me because you're too young to really get that in your head.
Right.
And then, as you're getting older and hanging out, you start realizing that, well, they like you for some reason. I mean, as I got older and I was driving nice cars and on nightclubs, I know why they like me. So I told a friend of mine, he was a real fat guy, and he's like, man, I wish I got all the girls you got. And I flipped him the keys to my car. I had I always had Corvette convertibles and Benz convertibles and different cars. But at that time, I had a Corvette convertible. I go, here. And his name was George. I said, hey, George, take the car. He says, guarantee you, now that you have that car, it's the same thing. So I never let that play into me, to be honest with you. He says, I just looked at it as, it depends on your situation. If you're throwing money around, if you got nice clothes, you're driving a nice car, you're in the nightclub business, of course you're going to get your share of women. Yeah. It's the ones that you got to understand, do they like you for you, or do they like you for the material and for the notoriety? So that was the part I was having trouble understanding.
And we bring that up because some friends of yours that we've interviewed in the past and things of that nature, they always go, John's always got it. He's always pulling them. Doesn't matter if he's 22 or 32 right now. He's always got it, brother. He's always pulling them. So,
By the way, what's up, Gene? How are you, man?
Yeah, what's up, dude?
What's up, Gene?
How did you, was this, correct me if I'm wrong, but were you in Spain where you were living with 4 women? Is that Spain?
Man, you did your homework.
Oh, I did a lot, man. This is the first 5 minutes, too. Yeah.
So I lived in Barcelona, and I met these girls on a train. Yeah. And, I didn't speak good Spanish at that time. I spoke all right, but I get a lot better. And they used to go to the same internet places. So we started talking and whatever. One of the girls, Julie, was from Venezuela. And, me and her hit it off. She was young. And she said, hey, we have a roommate that's leaving. Do you want to move in? So one of the girls' boyfriend owned the condominium, was on the beach in a place called Sitges. So I'm like, yeah, but I don't know. They don't tell the guy. So the guy comes in and he sees me, and he's mad at his girlfriend. They're arguing back and forth in the bedroom, but they're talking real fast, so I can't understand it. And then he comes out and he's real nice to me. I said, because this guy's problem. He said, but he was a good shape guy. So I'm thinking, so I tell the girl, what are you guys going to get me in a fight with this guy? Why don't you tell me you own the place? So he leaves and they're all laughing. I go, what are you laughing at? And they says, oh, we told him you're gay. Don't worry about it. so I'm like, so every time he see me, I says, no, I'm looking at him. So I tell her, I think your boyfriend's gay too because he keeps looking at me too. But he was a nice guy. We all hit it off. After a while, we'd hang out a lot. And the girls, but before girls are funny because at first they're running around with towels and covering themselves. And after I'm living there for 3 months with them, now they're walking around constantly in their underwear, braless, come in the bathroom because we only have one bathroom. And that worked out well for me because once I had the one bathroom, they're in the shower. All right, you can use the bathroom. And before you know it, they're using the bathroom. Well, I'm in the shower, I'm showering. And then they're like, all right, you can get in the shower with me. Just don't around touch me. And I'm like, yeah, all right. And,
but inevitable, though, right?
Well, yeah, it's inevitable. We all start, one day this girl you fool around with, the next day it's another one. And I'm like, oh, man. So once they're drinking a little bit, and the other one's like, don't tell my girlfriend. I ain't saying nothing. I got it made. I don't want to get booted out of here.
So at that point, when you're like, all right, now you're in with them on an intimate level, you're like, man, I'm living like a king right now, right? Where do you think, man, I want to hold on to this gig for as long as possible?
Yeah, I'm saying I never want to leave. So 2 of the girls actually went back to Venezuela, and they said to me, now they didn't know about me at first. And when they found out, they go, we're going back to Venezuela. We can get you a couple passports. I go, how good are they? And she goes, I think they're decent. So they go back and they get me a couple passports, and I give money, whatever. We take pictures, and they come back. They were all right passports. But now one of them's going to leave. Then I was making a move going to Italy, and I was going to come back. And as you're going, you run into some trouble. And so I'm like, you're trying to stay in that situation but you don't want to get too comfortable, obviously, because you're moving around. But I picked all good spots to go to. I mean, I may look stupid, but I'm not stupid. I went to Cuba. I went to Brazil. I went to Argentina. I went where it was every hot girl in every country that you can go to.
Was that intentional?
Oh, yeah. When they questioned me later on, like, what are you doing in these places? I'm like, who the wouldn't want to go to Brazil?
So which country would you say had the best-looking women, and could you describe them?
Brazil. In Brazil, when you say ass, it's bunda. And they have the best around. And in Brazil, and they can dance. Listen, Colombia I lived in, they can all, in the Latin countries, they're all friendly, they all dance, and that's a good card to play. So if anybody goes to these countries, tell them you don't know how to dance, they'll teach you. They go right on the dance floor, very friendly with you, and so you would go to these countries. But Cuba, they can really dance too. I mean, it was another great spot to go to, and your money goes a long way there, so that was a good spot.
Are you a dancer?
Yeah, I dance. I don't care.
What
I stink, but I dance.
What was their native dance that they were showing you?
They just different dances. They would
Like tango?
yeah, you did tango, the merengue, just freestyle. I'm trying to think, different dances. They used to do couples dancing. I mean, just whatever it was, I did with them. I even country line dance because I owned a country club and they taught me that because we had instructors. I did enough just to get by,
Right?
and everybody used to laugh because I dressed like a New Yorker with a suit and tie all the time. Especially back then, we'd all have sports jackets and mock necks, kind of like this, but a tighter fit. And so that was another thing I did. But if you want to meet girls, you got to dance.
Yeah.
And I was shy, it really was, even for that. But that's the best way to meet them.
Do you go to the bars in Brazil and just you speak Portuguese, right?
I speak Portuguese. I speak Spanish. I learned when I was there.
Right. Yeah. That's what I said, multilinguist. So do you just approach the woman at the bar and just start?
They're very friendly in Brazil, especially. All you got to do is say "oi," hello, and then they'll talk to you. They're very friendly to people. The cultures are really, the Latin cultures are very friendly and they're family oriented. It's not what people think. Yeah. So they're very easy to get along with, talk to, and obviously I try to stay in shape so that doesn't didn't hurt. And people ask you, why do you stay in shape? I mean, it's a stupid question. I'm motivated to stay in shape if you want to still run around.
Right.
So it's one of the things that come with it.
Did the women come up to you and say, "We're curious about your accent"? Like, who's this jacked American guy with the accent? You know what I mean? Were they curious about you, just your parents and your accent?
When I was first in Cuba, I had friends. So in Cuba, everybody knew me, from my friend, and they got to know you. They didn't say, "Hey, it's gringo," because everybody calls everybody a gringo from the States. But if you have friends, they tell them, "No, he lives here." And then I was running around the gyms a lot, boxing and stuff, so I started to know a lot of the locals. In Brazil, I had a cousin that lived in Sao Paulo. I lived in Rio, and I had a lot of street friends. So they started to know that when someone would say, "Oh, the gringo," and I'll talk because you get robbed a lot there, and they'll say, "That's no gringo, that's John." So I got known as who I was, John Americano, but not gringo. Fair enough. I knew everybody in the streets, and the girl I was with at the time, because I wore a $100,000 diamond bezel Rolex. And for somebody else, they'll chop your arm off. But I knew all the street guys, so the kids all knew me. And the kids are the ones that are dangerous. Yeah. Kids at 12 years old, they come in packs, wolf packs. And but I knew them all. I knew all the kids.
How did that work when you were traveling around? Your day-to-day operations, you just do whatever? Did you kind of hang out at the beach? Was it kind of just like,
well, I had the kind of routine we did here today. Like I wake up, and I would, I lived around the corner, and I purposely got a place around the corner from a gym. And Artur Mariano was the gym in Brazil, and that was right around the block, and he was a 3 or 4 time Muay Thai champ, great fighter. So I'd be in his gym, and then I would be with Gracie's cousin, and he was one of my friends, and he ran the weightlifting side, believe it or not. Most of the family jiu-jitsu.
Right.
He fought jiu-jitsu too. He's a big guy, but he's a weightlifter. So I got really friendly with him. So my morning routine would be, I'd get up at 8 o'clock in the morning, I'd have a coconut water, and then I'd go to the gym, I'd fight, I'd go work out for 2 hours. I'd leave there and I'd meet him at the beach, and we'd run the beach. We'd run 7, 8, 10 miles a day, 3, 4 days a week. And then on the beach was the pull-up thing. So I was pretty good with pull-ups. Being in jail my whole life, that was a routine. So we would do sets of 20, 25. And those were nothing for us. At that time, when you superset it more push-ups, which you guys say, I still do push-ups all the time. So these were my routines. And by the time it was 2 o'clock, we would end up going to one of these places for happy hour. And by being on the beach day and night and being at the gym, you knew the whole area, everybody. In my building, I lived in a building that was packed with girls. So I started to know everybody, all the locals, and so you always had something.
Rough life.
Yeah, I mean, to tell you the truth, it's just if I didn't have kids or anything, and you miss that, but your life is good. I mean, it was like saying I got a second chance at life in any of these countries. When I was in Cuba, same thing. I had friends, so it wasn't like the average guy. I knew people in every country. I went to Denmark. My partner that was in prison, his whole family, all his friends were there. So when I went there, they helped me move around. That's how I got to move around, and I knew everybody. So it wasn't like the average guy that didn't know people. Internationally, I knew a lot of people in every country.
Right.
Let's talk about Amsterdam. Now, did you ever go to the red light district?
Oh, of course.
Were you known by
Was
everybody?
it red light? Yeah. I wish my son was sitting with me because I took him to Amsterdam. And here's a crazy story. So we're walking, and you're not allowed to take pictures. And they started taking pictures of me when I was walking through the thing. And this girl's banging on the thing, and she was like 21 or 22, but I mean, absolutely beautiful. And she's banging. So I'm like, what does she want? And she goes, I know who you are. She's an Italian girl. She was my friend's Albanian. She says, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, she comes out of the booth, and she says, can you take some pictures with me? So I took a couple of pictures with her. And she goes, you remind me of my father. So I'm like, I'm thinking, all right, am I my father? She goes, I'll you for free. and I'm laughing. I said, you just said I remind you of your father. So now I'm thinking, how crazy is
Yeah, right? That's the craziest next sentence to say after you say that, right? But hey.
And just to clarify, you're walking through, and this is one of the working girls in one of the shops or the clubs, right?
Yeah.
So people that don't know, there's women in the windows of the bars in the red light district in Amsterdam. So,
I married her.
Yeah.
But, listen, honestly, on the girls' behalf, really, she was actually pretty nice. I mean, and a lot of these girls are. People think they're all nuts. I mean, I guess they got something going on. Maybe they had hard life. I ain't judging anybody because look what the happened to my life. So I don't want to judge anybody. You feel bad for them because they're doing it for a reason and they're trying to make money. A lot of maybe they need it for survival. Maybe they got used to it, whatever. But she was nice, actually. She was personable. She wasn't a dummy. She was actually educated. And when she said that, she clarified what she meant about her father. But at first, I went like, well.
Well, you don't have to say yes or no. Just give a nod if you did, or a nay if you didn't. Did you?
Yeah, I got two problems. I said, his head never works with that head. and I was walking with my son. My son went back to the hotel. This is the next day, and I lived in Venezuela for a while. So there was a couple of kids that I met in Venezuela. I was dead drunk. I was drinking with a bunch of Albanian guys. You guys know I'm Albanian. So we got a big community in every country. And I was drinking with him. I told my son, I'll meet you back. I couldn't find my way back. And these two young guys up behind me, and they're yelling at me, John, John, John. So I don't think they're talking to me. I figure they're talking to other John. So I turn around, and they're like, John, it's us. But I knew them from Venezuela. They were only 16, 17, 18 years old. So how are you going to recognize them years later? So as I'm getting up to my hotel, my son's looking for me. He's on the balcony. He's screaming, you all right? Because he sees these guys coming, behind me. And they're like, don't worry, with an accent, we have your daddy. He knows us from Venezuela. And then now they hit my son, come on, let's go back out. We'll show you another club. So, I went upstairs, washed up, trying to straighten out. And then he took us out to another place, another club. And it's crazy to run into them, years later. But now they're all, they're older guys. They're jacked up. They know everybody. They're streety kids. They're moving around. They know every place.
Right. What are you doing in South America? Like, aside from your workout routine, what are you doing like the rest of the day? Like, you go out to dinner? Like, what do you do?
I just told you.
The girls.
Nah.
Okay.
It depends on what country it was in. If I was in Cuba, I had a big fighter there, Topanga, who was one of the top fighters. So I knew him, and I go hang out with him, his family, motorcycles. We go to, and then I loved, and George Anastasia talked about this. I love cultures. So I used to travel a lot. I go to churches, and I'd take videos of all churches, and I'd like to go into the, the mountains and, some hot waterfalls and, like you see in the movies. I found places I used to research, and, some of my friends, I'd ask them to show me around the country. So I loved different cultures, their food, and I mean, every day I did something different like that. Plus, 4 hours a day I would work out. I mean, if you've seen, I guess you guys seen pictures of me before. All I did was I loved working. I loved to run. It was that high, the endorphins of running. And then at night I would be out every night with friends, dinners and clubs and bars, and just living my best life, thinking honestly that this could end any day, which eventually it did.
Right. And just so everybody knows, I got to clear something up. We saw John shirtless, and just so everybody knows, I swear to God, he is still jacked and in better shape than most 25-year-olds. This is a fact. This is a fact. Yeah. So I just want to throw that out there. So when you were traveling, you were really getting ingrained in the culture. You were going exploring tourist spots or relics or art or traveling the countryside, eating different places. People that were native to the country were taking you to different spots. You were really immersing yourself within the culture of each country, right?
Yeah, and I studied. It was one of the things I did do was I'd buy books and study the language. So I would study Spanish. I would try to, learn a little, speak a little better. I mean, I could get by in Spanish. I could get by in Portuguese. I was trying to get more proficient where, the verbs was, correct. Yeah, I still suck with the verbs, but I tried. But I can have a full conversation, no problem, in Spanish and Portuguese. I learned a little French. I forgot it. German. So I started studying those languages as I was in these countries, and I actually enjoy it. So I enjoyed learning their foods and different things, and I traveled to over 20 countries. So I was all over.
Wow.
People that don't know that we're talking about, you traveling and moving around and trying to just catch me if you can, like the movie like that. You're just cruising around. How long were you doing that for?
About a year and a half. I could have probably did it for a lot longer than that, but the problem was what we're just talking about now. Is at least that you'd lay low, but in your mind you start yourself that you're okay. And even though I'm moving from country to country every so often, I'm still out there too much that I shouldn't have been. And if I would have just stayed in Cuba, I was good. If I would have stayed in Venezuela, but I was in all over these countries. I didn't stay in one area. Like when I went to Venezuela, I was in Caracas, I was in Valencia, I was in Santa Margarita. Which, by the way, if anybody wants to go anywhere, go there. The beaches are great, the women are beautiful, they're friendly, and the money goes a long way. So,
is that your favorite spot?
I'm going to be a tour guide now.
Oh, yeah.
That was one of them. Yeah, that was one of them.
What was the country when you were training your boxing? You ended up on television.
Yeah, it was in Colombia. I was in Billy's gym.
Okay.
And so I'm. They're trying to sign me. They're trying to give me a pro contract in Brazil, actually. But I was going back for. But at that time, I'm Billy's gym, and I believe that was 31st Street in Barranquilla. So I was in Barranquilla. I went to Medellin, to the stadium. I fought up there. I traveled all over with different fighters, and I'm in the ring and I'm sparring, and cameras come in, and I don't know. Unbeknownst to me, there's a woman fighter from Panama that's fighting a Colombian girl, two girls, great fighters. Actually, I didn't want to get in a ring with it. Don't make one of them knock me out. But so the cameras come in and they ask about me. And one of the guys say, yeah, they were talking to him because I lied about my age. They're talking about signing me. They were talking about Brazil. And he comes up to me. I don't know. I just think it's a guy with a camera. Like, you think it's a regular camera crew, but I don't know it's going to be on television. And he starts, and I don't know how to get away from him. And I start doing the interview, and it goes on cable TV. And then my friend that had the hook was involved with the cartel. He calls me up, and he goes, "What are you doing?" I says, "What?" He goes, "You're all over TV." So they come looking for me at the hotel, but the hotel's protecting me. And when you come in both places, I lived in Brazil and in Colombia. If you come in the first floor, I think in Colombia you come out the second floor. There's another door to go out the back. The girl's name was Izzy, and she worked the reception, and I was around with her. So when they came in, she gave them the wrong floor that was on. She called me up, and she goes, "Get out of the room. They're on the way up." I said, "Who?" And she said, immigration and whoever else, the police. So I leave half my stuff. I take what I can. I go out the second floor, where you can get out. And I took off, and that was it. I don't go back. And the cartel ends up helping me drive with me. They drive me from Colombia into Venezuela. In Venezuela, I go to an army base, and I live with a woman on an army base where I'm good. I'm protected. And but I was bored. No, I'm like, all right, this ain't gonna last long.
Well, how quick was it? Was it like live television? Is that like, or was it like an hour later it was on the news?
Next day.
Oh, because then I was like, then you're like, you had no idea. Then
Yeah, next day,
okay.
and then that was it. You know,
Right.
and they had me, and they knew I was there. And, you know, I had different pro fighters here in the States that, you know, I was giving numbers to, and they were covering for me. And, you know, people asked me what I was, you know, I always had a different excuse. What are you doing here? But when I was in, I mean, the guys that are hiding me in Barranquilla, they're all involved. They got me staying at a hotel. They're all street guys. So that they know why I'm there. But other people, my cover was the same. I just got divorced. I got a couple bucks. I'm down here to fight, make some money, travel, have some fun. And, you know, I was dating a couple of girls there, but one of them actually was a fighter, beautiful girl, but a great fighter. And that was dating her for a while. And so.
I got to ask you real quick. Did you go to any of this? Are you a strip club guy?
I didn't really, no, I never
No,
really,
you
I mean,
weren't.
I've been to a couple, but I'm not a real big strip club guy. I never have been. I would go once in a while.
Yeah.
He doesn't need to be.
Right. You just prefer just walk down the street.
Yeah, you're like, oh yeah, the bell lady, the person in the desk, you know, the person over there, the cab driver. Not that at all.
What was Paris like for you?
Oh, I love Paris. So Paris was, I lived right by the train station in Paris. And, you know, it's a crazy thing. I just ran into a guy from Paris that met me in Paris 20 years ago. So I'm on the run, and it's all over the news. So you got to figure this has got to be 2002 or 2003 if you can Google it. There's two guys and a girl that bank robbers, and they're in trouble, and they're all over the news. So I'm walking in the street. They stop me. The girl stops me. The guys are hiding in the car, and they ask me if I could do them a favor, and they want me to get a message to somebody. And they're trying to get money because they're on the run. So we start talking, and I tell her, I said, so I'm in trouble myself. You picked the wrong guy at everybody. I go, I'll help you. But I was going to try to get money myself. And I forget what happened, but I gave him a couple bucks, and then we exchanged numbers. We got throwaway phones, and we stayed in touch with each other. And we were helping each other move around. And not last year, but 6 months ago, I ran into a guy that knew me from Paris, from these guys. And,
Small world.
Yeah, small world. And I'm like, boy, it's just their luck. They ran into me. I mean, I ended up helping them. I gave them because I was picking up a couple thousand. I gave them like 400 or 500 myself. I was trying to help them.
Networking is a super important part of life in all aspects, right? It doesn't matter, you know, business, any element, any aspect of business, I'm sure in the street life, when you're traveling. How did you become such a great networker to where you build up these huge lineages of people that knew you all over the world? Like cartel guys, all these different people, you know, how did you build that?
Well, I met a lot of guys in jails and the street, but I wasn't like most street guys. They stay in their little neighborhood. I never did. I lived everywhere. I lived in California. I lived in Florida. I lived in Philadelphia area. I lived here in New York. And then I traveled all the time, and I have friends from around the world, from different countries. Being Albanian, I have a lot of friends and cousins that lived in Italy. They lived in Turkey. They lived in Germany. So I had an automatic network also. And then I went international. And the more friends I have internationally in Switzerland and different places, they have friends. So you're automatically moving around with all these guys because you already have contacts.
Right.
And, you know, I was known to move around from country to country. And, you know, I developed a lot of friendships over the years, and I still have them. So, you know, I'm in the UK. I got a ton of friends in the UK, too. So I go to the UK a lot.
So you're loved literally all over the world, everywhere.
Yeah, I mean, you know, I built a network of friends of, listen, one thing my father used to tell me about life, he says it's a marathon. It's not a sprint. He goes, don't f people over with money. You'll have friends forever. So it's true. If you do the right thing with people, you don't screw them over. They stay friendly with you, loyal to you, and they help you out when you need to. I'm not saying everybody's going to give you money because that's another thing, but they look out for you when you need it. You know, a contact, I got them. And so I had a lot of contacts around the world. I traveled everywhere.
Nice. You had a question for John about traveling nowadays, right? Remember him getting into other countries?
Oh, it's fine for you just to move around now?
Like you can get in other countries because of your past
Yeah,
life.
some of the countries won't let me in, but I was in Africa. I got friends. The average person can't tell you, oh, I got friends in Africa. I got friends in Africa. I go to West Africa. I got from there. I went, the Ivory Coast. So when other people can't, I can. Somebody was a guy. I did the GQ. I was a centerfold at GQ on a story about the street and the mob and this and that. And the guy that wrote the story and took photos of the story, this guy Alex, we maintained a friendship, and he was doing another magazine, a travel magazine, but a very nice one, not like a pamphlet one. And he says to me, "Can you get me in touch with some people from other countries?" I go, "Yeah, sure." So he goes, "All right." I said, "Hold on." He goes, "What do you mean, hold on?" I says, "Just tell me the country. I'll call now. I'll three-way at each country." He says, "You kidding me?" I go, "No. What country? Just give me the country you want, and I'll call whoever, and I'll get my friends on the phone." And he was amazed. I mean, now we maintained a friendship for a lot of years. So he knows that I can reach and get in touch with anybody at any country. If you name a country, I could call it, and I got friends there. So, at the time when I did it, he was really surprised. Now he isn't. But, if you say to me, call Canada, I got partners in Canada and friends in Canada. If you tell me UK, I got people there. If you tell me Africa, I have a lot of friends in Africa. So, and I spent time in Africa. So, of course, Cuba I lived in, and Uruguay, Paraguay, Venezuela, and all these countries, Brazil, anywhere across the world, even in China. I'm not a big advocate of China because of what they do with the people, enslave them, and, I took it. I got to slip one thing. I'm not a big LeBron fan at all because he's okay with the slavery in China and he kisses their ass. So I got to just say that to LeBron.
I'm with you too.
Booty said the same thing last
he
night.
seriously flicked him out.
He's a scumbag. He says,
100%.
Everything we talk about, I'm a big inner city guy. For people that don't know, I advocate for them like crazy because I grew up in the inner city. I don't have a color thing with me.
My question with the traveling part was, obviously, correct me with this, with the background that you had and things like that, you're able to travel to other countries. That's okay.
Now I am, but I'm on some sort of I don't know what it's called. I guess Homeland Security list or something because they break my chops everywhere I go, and they know that the history and they know that I'm okay now doing the right thing with my life. But it's very hard to get off that list. I don't know how to. So every time I'm in the airport, the last time I flew into Kennedy Airport, they held me again for a couple hours.
I was going to say, so every time you're like, I'm just going to go to the airport a couple hours because I know this is going to be a hiccup and I'm going to miss my flight.
Yeah. My sons make fun of me. They travel with me and say, "See you later, Dad. We'll meet you there."
Can I ask, you said you had, when you were traveling around, when you were on the run, did you have Interpol after you?
Yeah, actually, when I was in France, my son's mother came to meet me, because I didn't see her. We would talk about the kids. We tried to vacation a little bit, but I knew somebody was following me, and she fluffed it off, and then I was like, all right, maybe I'm paranoid. And I seen him when we were at a couple of cafes, but we got on a train coming back. We went to Amsterdam, and we were coming back from it. The mayor of Amsterdam actually ran into me. He didn't know who I was. We hit it off at the bar. We were talking. He says, "Come visit me." So I go see him. And then on the way home, I'm telling her, I says, "You get away from me. They're gonna grab me." And she thought I was nuts. And she's like, "You're crazy. Some lady was looking at you." "Oh, she's just a good looking lady. She's probably just looking at you." I'm like, the lady isn't looking at me like that. And then there was a guy looking at me. And I said, anyway, they stopped the train and they swarm us. So that was the first time Interpol tried to grab me, but they jumped the arrest warrant at that time. And then they were looking frantically in my bags and everything else to try to hold me on something. And they couldn't hold me, obviously. And the guy says to me at the time, I told this story somewhere, Gestapo. And I'm like, that's only in the German, Nazi movies. I hear Gestapo. And the guy had 9mm. He was shaking. He was sweating. He was the chief or the boss of that was coming to get me anyway. He was the lead guy. And I said, "You're going to shoot me in the head." I says, you get your finger off that trigger. And he goes, "Put your hands up." And I was like, "No, I didn't put my hands up." I had my hands on the seat. And he goes, "Put them up." I go, "No." I go, "What are you grabbing me for?" But he says he made a couple of mistakes because he was nervous. And he's speaking to me in English. I says, "How you know I'm American? Why are you speaking to me in English in the French train?" So that's his first mistake. And then the other thing, he's accusing me of muling drugs. And I go, if you know it's me, why would I mule my own drugs? So I said to him, "Listen, you're full of shit. I know you got an arrest warrant for me. I want to see it." And they didn't have it. He jumped it. So now they're arguing. They're stripping me. They took me off the train. They're stripping, which is illegal, on the side of the road. They grabbed my son's mother. They're checking her. And they had a woman come on check her. And After that, she couldn't get away from me fast enough. She went back to the United States quick, but they had to let me go. So once they let me go, I was on a hop again, and then I went. What I would do was go to Venezuela and Cuba to get rid of them when I thought they were on my tail. And when you go to Cuba, for people who don't know, they don't stamp it. They put a piece of paper inside it and stamp it, and they staple it, so they know when you come in and out. But I had some political connections in Cuba, so I could have ended up staying there if I wanted to, but I just kept leaving.
Fair enough. For the people that don't know, could you explain what Interpol is and how you end up getting on that level where they're after you?
Well, Interpol is the international police, federal police from country to country. So if you're wanted for a crime like I was, serious crimes, they put you on an international most wanted list. And every federal police from every department from every country is looking for you.
So you got to be like a big gangster, like up there, in order for them to be on their list, right?
I assume so.
Yeah, okay. I just wanted to put some people that don't know. Like,
people that don't know, this video's out. Actually, it's on my Instagram, and people put out the head of Interpol of Brazil speaks about me and says what he says. I mean, they called me the king of crime in New York. Actually, it was what he said.
Really?
Yeah. That was the headlines of the papers.
Holy shit. You have that?
Yeah, I got it.
Can I get a copy of that?
I was saying the same thing. Holy shit. Can you erase that? That was a big mistake.
Fair enough. All right, so now we bring that up. We got to take it to New York real quick. Obviously, you're a legendary guy in the streets. I want to keep it fresh though, because I know you've told a lot of different stories over the years. So first of all, how, as an Albanian man, how does one get involved with the Italian mafia and not the Albanian mafia in New York? You know what I mean? Why did you go that route?
The biggest Albanian gangster around when I was growing up was Joey Lika. He's got life. And his nephew was my friend Sadat, who just recently died. And he had a little brother, Mussolini. We grew up together since we were 5 years old. But Albania was a communist country, so it was closed off. If you would have told people when I was growing up, you're Albanian, they wouldn't even know what that was. So you would kind of say the same thing. Well, it's near Greece, it's near Turkey, it's like Italian. And people would always say the same, well, it's like Italy, right? It's like Italian. And I used to say, no, it's like Albanian. It's a separate country. But we are very close to them. And you have a lot of Albanians that live in Bari, Italy, and Calabria. It's full of Albanians. And, you have, the cultures are the same, really. The Mediterranean cultures are basically the food, the thought process and things like that. So so there really wasn't an Albanian mafia like that. Okay. But there were, packs of serious drug dealers like Lika, and his nephew was my good friend. There was another family lived up the block from me, the Kamashes. They're legitimate guys, actually good football players, soccer. I say football still, but American football and football. And they were good football players, American soccer, excuse me again. But so there was them, and there was a couple other families, but for the most part, there really weren't Albanians like there was now. When the country opened, now there's Albanians everywhere, and everybody knows. We have a strong reputation of being stubborn people, but good-hearted people, but wild people too.
And some tough.
Yeah. We have a reputation of being violent.
And you said you grew up on Jamaica Avenue, correct?
Correct.
And there was all different cultures, ethnicities where you grew up?
Yeah, I grew up in the border of East New York and Woodhaven. It was Jamaica Avenue. My school was actually Frank K. Lane High School, was half in Queens and half in Brooklyn. So we grew up on that border, and it was a lot of Spanish there. Not that many Indian at that time. On the other side of the neighborhood, it was German. That was towards Myrtle Avenue, and Irish. And then on the other side was Ozone Park and Howe Beach. Ozone Park was kind of middle, and Howe Beach were the rich kids. So where the money was. So we didn't, at that time, when we were younger, we didn't go down there much because we didn't have money. We were all in, for the people that remember especially, we'd have sneakers and we would put the black tape, electric tape around our shoes when it ripped because we didn't have money, so they would make fun of us. We'd have holes in our jeans, we'd have patches on them. Our parents would iron patch, our pants. None of us had money. My father was a cab driver, so we grew up rough with nothing.
So how did you get mixed up with the Italian mafia? You've been on record saying before you have more respect for a legitimate tough street guy no matter where he's from. A street guy is a street guy. It doesn't matter his ethnicity, where he's from. Obviously, you're around a lot of different guys in that life, or in any form of, the gangs or the mafia. Why did you go the route of the Italian mafia when you're around all different ethnicities growing up?
I grew up on Jamaica Avenue where it was a mixture of Irish, German, Spanish, Italian, some Albanian, very few. And I always say the same thing because where I went to school, busing first started. And when I went to high school, it was mostly a black school. It was white and black and Spanish, but it was mostly black. And most of my friends on my baseball, I played baseball, were black. And it was the other part was Spanish. Was one or two white kids. Keith Burtis was one of the white guys. Me, Steve Dennis. I got a good memory. Everybody knows it by names. So me and Steve Dennis still friends. But the guys that would protect me, I was a little kid, were actually all my black friends. They would tell everybody, that's Little John. Don't go near him. Guys that didn't know me from the street, that were hanging on the street corner. So I always had a lot of respect for my friends because they didn't have that, the guys I grew up with, the black guys I grew up, never had that colored thing. Because to them, I was one of them, right? So I always kept that mentality because my parents had that mentality. They had mixed friends. I had mixed friends. My sons have mixed friends. We never looked at it. When people tell me about the Italian mob, my dad grew up on the Lower East Side. And Lucky Luciano's cousin was Blackie. Also, Charlie Luciano was my father's partner growing up, my uncle's partner. And, so I was already involved with the mob socially since I'm a baby. Since I'm 3, 4 years old, I was with these guys. My uncle ran a 3-card Monte game down in the South Bronx with these guys. Another guy, Handsome Jack, a guy that just came home just recently, Al Greco, would stay there, stay with them. My father was looked up to him. He was known to be a tough guy. He just came home after, I don't know how many years for murder and everything. And 80 years old, guy's supposed to be in great shape still. These are the people I was introduced to since I'm a kid. And then my baseball coach was the neighborhood boss, and my little girlfriend growing up, her dad and uncle were mob guys in the Lucchese family. So that was my introduction. Since I'm a baby, I was around these guys.
Okay. So it was always just a part of who you were destined to become.
Yeah, they just, listen, was my neighborhood, my area, and the only difference in my mentality was I didn't care. I stayed with a lot of Irish guys, and they were tough guys. I stayed with a lot of black guys, tough guys. One of my best friends now is John Wilson. We were just together the other day. We haven't seen each other in a while. Black guy, Denny Brown, black guy, Prince Badi, black guy. I don't give a what color they are, and my son, same thing. Their friends are all mixed. So I look at it and I'm like, this guy's a nice guy. He's a nice guy. If he's a tough guy, he's a tough guy. All that about, well, he's only this. If he's that nationality, is stupid. And I'm an Albanian guy. I'm very patriotic to America, to Albania, and those are the core values I guess I learned from my neighborhood friends and from my family.
Go ahead.
All right, which brings me to my next question, but you just got to give me 1 second, okay?
Yeah.
It's nothing bad.
Where are we going?
I think he's going to get my baseball bat.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, there you go.
Some literature.
Little literature. So anyone who doesn't know, The Darkest Hour, pick it up.
A close up on that.
There you go. We'll get it on that bad boy. We'll even put it over here. So growing up in the book, I don't want to touch on the book a lot because obviously I want you guys to read it.
Right.
So you had a bunch of Irish dudes around you, and there was at the
7 and 9.
7 and 9. And then you and your brother had some beef with those guys, and your brother tuned them up. So, obviously, coming around a bunch of different neighborhoods, coming up with boxing and things of that nature, this was just ingrained as you as a child. And obviously just knowing so many different groups of people, from Irish to black to whatever, that probably made you able to spread your wings bigger and have so much more of a touch than just maybe the Italian mafia at one point, right?
Yeah, 7 and 9 was a rough gang of kids that were from our neighborhood. A lot of them were my friends. A lot of them weren't. But in those days, it was very racial, right? You had the Crazy Homicides was one gang, and the little girlfriend I was talking about earlier, her sister went out with Ringo, who was the boss of the Crazy Homicide Spanish guy. So I knew all them because, he was out with the sister. I was younger with the other sister. And then you had the Black Panthers in those days. They'd be down in Brooklyn and Highland Park. It was a park that a lot of guys, if you're white, you didn't go down that way. I did because I knew them all. So it was a little different. Same thing, 7 and 9. There was a lot of them were good kids. A lot of them were wild kids. A lot of them were pieces of shit. But I knew them all. And, we had problems with some of them. And they did things that, people ask us, why did we join the gang? Because some of them did things back in those days. You're talking about the 60s and the 70s, where they would baseball bat and pipe black guys just from coming through our neighborhood. They'd kill the Spanish kid. One of our friends later on, he changes his life, and he gets his life right. He actually helps me get my life right. And he killed the Spanish kid just because he was Spanish going through our neighborhood. And I wasn't with that, because I didn't think like that, because these guys are my friends. They protected me, these guys, black guys. I played baseball down in the Prospect Park. It's all black. It's all Spanish. I'd walk through that neighborhood, and if anybody bothered me, those same guys would protect me. So how can I go with these guys after some of these guys or their families? I couldn't do it. And so I never thought like that. Even in prison, guys know I used to eat on the other side. White guys wouldn't go on the other side of the chow hall. I did. I would go eat with Darrell Johnson, his name's Butch, from Philly, and different guys. And the white guys would make a comment, I tell them to go themselves. So I didn't care what they thought. And, people always, got people always talk. But anybody knows me from these prisons know I fought everywhere. I fought in every prison I was at. I was always in the hole, whether it was Fairton, it was Allenwood, it was Fort Dix, it was penitentiaries in Brazil. Guys know me. I've been in every jail around. So I've been in, Rikers, Queens House, Loretto. I mean, I can just keep naming them. Allenwood. So, it's just part of the life. It's either you look at people for who they are or you want to judge them by your color. I'm the biggest guy that I can't stand these politicians because they try to keep their power by dividing people. Whether it's your religion, whether it's your color, whether it's you're straight or gay, what does that have to do with anything? I got a lot of friends that are gay. They're the best guys around. What does that have to do? As a person, you judge people as people. You don't judge them like what somebody's doing or what language they speak or what religion, if they're going to church, if they're Catholic, if they're Jewish, if they're Muslim. I mean, what does that have to do with the person itself? So, I never conform to one thing. That's not me.
Do you think that when you were in like the narcotics world, having that expansion, of knowing so many people, because you initially, correct me if I'm wrong, got involved with like being in that life because it was just a way of kind of, okay, I'm cool with these guys, so I could keep moving other stuff around with everybody else. Is that kind of how it worked?
Yeah, I mean, all my friends were, our neighborhood, everybody was doing drugs. Everybody was using drugs. There was a place called the Dome up on Forest Park. I lived on Forest Park. It was up the block. It was incredible. It was something like you see in the movies. I mean, the whole area was everybody selling every drug you could believe. I mean, there was hundreds of people that hang out there every day. You can buy anything from acid to guns to this. It was incredible. I mean, it's really incredible. It's that movie. I forget what that movie is. When they're running around with colored skin and the baseball bats. I forget what it's called.
The face paint?
Yeah.
Dead presidents?
No, not the dead presidents.
Oh, the Warriors?
The Warriors.
Oh, yeah.
So it was kind of weird like that almost. And anybody that knows our neighborhood, the Dome, and it was up in Forest Park, was incredible. It was just packed. And there used to be concerts up there and drugs up there, but you can buy what you want. But I had a lot of friends that were older than me that were selling drugs. And when they got in trouble with different gangsters and mobsters, they came to me and says, can you talk to this guy, that guy? I know you know them. And that's how I originally got into the drug business, believe it or not, because I said, yeah, I'll go talk to him. They go, well, how about if we give you an end? And then, you could talk to them and tell them that you're partners with us and they won't bother us. And that's exactly how I started. And then from there, you want to make money. So I understand the inner city kids because I was that kid.
What age did the Gambinos recruit you, right? There's obviously multiple families. Why'd you go with them, and at what age did they come and kind of take you under the wing? I
actually got started with the Lucchese family.
Oh, really? Okay.
And that was my girlfriend's uncle's, George Gaddy. Excuse me. And he brought me in through a bookmaking business with one of the runners at the time was Ronnie Martino, Mousy, they called him. And another guy, Etor, was an ex-pro boxer. So these guys were the ones that I was originally involved with. And so both, between the boxing, between the street, between the bookmaking, I got involved in all this at once, basically, at about 14 years old.
Wow. So you were actually doing work for them at that age?
Little errands. You know, I wasn't doing work when I would run numbers sheets, and I'd run bookmaking slips, and I'd pick up money. And I worked in a delicatessen that was involved with the mob. So they used our back pay phones back then to call in the bets. And, back then you had horse, they would take horse action. So, you had that going on. So, I'd be moving around, and the club was around the corner. And on the corner was my girlfriend's father's place. He had a car service. So the brother was around the corner. He was on the corner. So I would be running errands for him.
Okay.
When you were, you mentioned earlier about owning clubs and things of that nature, country line dancing joint. How many did you own at one point? Or were they all separated at different times, or were they all together?
No, the same year, I owned a friend of mine, Cam. He died a couple of years back. He was actually partners with, he owned a place called Hogs in Ybor City with Hulk Hogan. And Hulk's son, Nick, was in prison with me, and I knew when he was a kid, so we just met up actually recently. But Cam opened up a place called American Cowboy, I believe it was in 1994, and he came to me for money. That's how I originally got involved. He opened it on Waters in Del Mabry, and I gave him about $75,000 or $100,000, and so I went partners with him on the silent end. And then after that, he opened up another American Cowboy in Cherry Hill, New Jersey, and I fed him money on that. And then I got involved in another club with this guy, Duke Mandel, who's actually was an informant against me. And he owns Scores now. He owned the parking car. I put this guy in business. I did everything for him. He was getting beat up and abused. I helped him from jail, from everything. His thank you was to screw me and steal my money. And we owned a club. Me and him owned a club. What was the name of our club? I'll think of it. But we owned another country place in Largo, Tampa, Florida. So when we opened that, and then he ended up stealing that. He did insurance jobs, and then he opened the place American Graffiti with some of my money. And then when I went to prison, he finagled his way into stealing and manipulate my parking company, which also I gave him a job. When I first met him, he was making $750 a week. But, piece of guy, pimping his own sister-in-law out, prostituting her out. He got caught up in a drug thing. They pinched him. They got him in mortgage fraud, and then he started working against me. And he tried to wear a wire on me, but I knew he was wearing a wire. He came to meet me in Philadelphia airport, and I told him, come leave the airport. And he wouldn't leave. I go, come here, come in the bathroom. I want to see you. And he was scared. He looked like he was going to cry. And then when I came home, when this was all over, I went into his club. And, and I just went in there to with him to drink for free. I wasn't going to do nothing to him. And he got right on the phone, called the FBI, the prosecutor's office. So I get a phone call, and they're like, I said, hello, and it's law enforcement. And they go, John, what are you doing? I says, nothing. I'm just drinking free. I said, I ain't going to do nothing to him. And he sends a girl out, and he goes, there's cameras all over here. I go, oh, that's good. Tell him, ask him how much I'm drinking so far. What a piece of shit, because I really helped the guy.
Right.
What was it like owning a nightclub? Were you going in there, there's beautiful women everywhere, you're just like, I want her tonight. Give me my You
don't have to. They do it to you. They want you tonight. So, I owned a place, Mirage Moet's, for 10 years, was making millions. And Stampedes was my other place with Duke. I owned the club Stampedes. And listen, the problem with money is it's great making money, but you start really losing friends, right? All the people that you help are either envious or jealous, trying to f you somehow, trying to cooperate against you. I mean, I had them all. I put all these guys. I put a guy, Terry Scaglione, in, whose grandfather was a made guy with the Gambino family. Another guy, right? Dead broke, penniless, in trouble. Begged me to become partners with me in my company, Prestige Valet. He didn't have a dollar. I finally take him in. I make him my partner. He's making all kinds of money with me. He goes to jail. He's involved in my case. He ends up being an informant against me also. And he keeps my parking company. We had a lawsuit in the middle of my criminal case. I think we won about $1.2 million, $1.3 million. But it's nothing. It was pennies compared to the money I'm going for lawyers now. And that's all documented case. And anyway, Terry ends up keeping my workers and opening up my parking company again. So when I come home, I tell him, hey, get me back involved. My company. I have all these guys working for me. And all these guys have a problem with me because I got a good memory. I remember everybody's names, things. And this piece of shit, him and Duke Mandel got on the phone with each other, and they screwed each other. And they had an exculpatory tape talking about how they're going to set me up, keep me in prison, steal my money. And which they both did. They're both multimillionaires now. Both of them were penniless when they met me. And that's life, right? And these guys ended up with my company. He sold my company for $17.6 million. Another guy, Jimmy Catacam, I put him in business too. He was trying to work with the FBI against me. And, people still talk to him. They didn't believe it. I had tapes on him. One of my old partners that never got jammed up, Frankie Sealy, he can attest to it. And he knows these guys were all working. So these guys all got rich off me. And that's the problem with money. There's jealousy, there's envious, they're power hungry. And if they ever had the power I had, they would have killed me. But they didn't have the balls, none of these guys. They weren't smart enough. They're just thieves. And Terry Scaglione, really out of all of them, when I came home, I says, I didn't even ask for a partnership. I says, hey, give me a check so I could get off again. I just came home. They took everything. I lost everything. And he wouldn't give me a check. I said, you got to be kidding me. After everything I did for you, I put you in business for free. I made you my partner. I didn't just give you a check. You still got my company. You're no different than these guys. You were an informant against me. And I implore anybody that wants to look at my case in Middle District of Florida, Tampa, all my co-defendants testified against me, either before trial or after trial. All of them gave me up, on top of 60 other guys that came in against me. So, they were all, I never got caught. I tell everybody, with nothing. So if anybody wants to look into that, I never got caught anything. So when these guys are running around, everybody with that rat, I don't even want to hear it. I don't care. My life moved on, but I never was actually caught with a thing.
You talk about the money you were making, and you're big into specifics. So can you specifically talk about what you were spending these millions on? Talk about the day when you're at your height. Like, let's talk about when you were living in New York at your height. You know what I mean? Like, what were you buying?
Well,
what were you doing?
I'm glad you asked me because, again, we'll go off of memory. 295 Greenwich Court, apartment 9G North. I bought a condo overlooking the water on the west side. I bought a building in Tampa, Hillsborough Avenue, 805 West Hillsborough. I bought that building. I bought a property, 78 Brick Road in Cherry Hill. I bought another property, 210 Route 73 in Cherry Hill, 15-acre estate that's worth about $10 million now. I bought a place in Plainsboro, 1505 Plainsboro Drive, Plainsboro, New Jersey. I bought a place, 2192 Ash Court, Whispering Woods Boulevard. 9744 91st Street, I bought 2 condominiums in Ozone Park. The problem with these guys can you know any guys that can do that, could spit all that out? And, I own a property in Audubon now. I own a property in Kingsburg. I own this estate you guys seen. It's beautiful here,
it's amazing.
too.
It's a beautiful.
John had us over at his house. It is incredible how amazing this property is. And also, he is an amazing decorator, and he's big on Christmas. His Christmas decorations are awesome.
Loves the Grinch.
Yeah.
Loves the Grinch.
I got the Grinch and his son. And, the biggest thing is, and I'm very close with my sons, but this time around, we did it the right way. I did it the right way with the help of my sons. I'm very close to my sons. And the thing that I have to bring up, and you guys know because there's pictures all over of my daughter, the most devastating thing in somebody's life is losing their child. I lost my daughter, and everything I do now in life is for my grandson, her son, and her memory, and go to church every week. Changed my life completely. I don't care about that nonsense with the street, the mob. And I try to save some lives of kids in a city who are active gangsters. I work with a lot of guys that are in prison, penitentiaries that got bad sentences, and I'm working to try to get them out. There's an Albanian family, the Duca brothers, that were charged with by Chris Christie, who I can't stand the fact that he used 9/11 as a way to lock these guys up, give them a life sentence with not one overt act of violence, and said they were terrorists because at the time the country was high on this terrorist stuff because what happened in 9/11, which is a shame. I'm the biggest guy advocate for this country. But if it was ever Donald Trump and he was behind this, it would have never happened. None of this. This is why I'm such a Donald Trump fan, because he's a legitimate lover of this country, and he wouldn't do what's going on to him or any of the other, Peter Navarro. These guys are getting arrested. These guys are all American love this country, what's going on. So when Chris Christie does this and nobody's looking at the Duca brothers and just throw the key away and charge him with terrorism so he can get elevated to governor, that's what he did it with. I tell everybody, look at these cases. Oscar Lugo, Spanish guy out of Chester, PA, good friend of mine, his daughters, he got 440 years, not one act of violence, nothing. And for 20 years in jail, no acts of violence. So I work with all these kind of cases, and I try to help these guys get out of jail. I stay in touch with them all. My friend Eddie, I stay in touch with him on a regular basis. My son's coming home soon. So there's a lot of these cases I try to advocate for because I know what it was when I was on the other side of this.